The following video may contain harsh language and spoilers for the movie in question. I mean, probably, I don't know. Really just depends on what you consider to be what. Today on Movie Mech Review, I may have completely lost my mind because I am covering the Godzilla Showa series. Here's what happened. The original Monster Man, the most famous of movie monsters, these films started less than a decade after World War Part II, starting with Gojira in 1954, and lasted through lots of changes in tone and design, through to Terror of Mechagodzilla in 1975, making 15 films total. Gojira. Testing the hydrogen bomb has awakened a ravenous beast of the prehistoric age known as Gojira, or Godzilla for our sake. He makes his way to Tokyo and wrecks house. Man named Dr. Serizawa has developed a weapon called the Oxygen Destroyer that operates on movie magic science. He uses that to kill Godzilla and himself. Godzilla raids again. Spotter planes for a fishing company find a new Godzilla, and he's having a pissing contest with a new monster named Anguirus. Godzilla can be lured away from land with flares, but when some escaped convicts super accidentally blow up an oil refinery, it draws Godzilla back to the city where he has the most epic punch fest with Anguirus and literally roasts him. Then we bury Godzilla in ice. King Kong vs. Godzilla. Godzilla breaks free from his icy prison and wrecks a submarine. Pharmaceutical company needs to boost sales, so they send some guys to a tropic island to get some magic cure-all berries, and they find a giant ape named Kong and take him back to Japan. It's a great idea. Godzilla also thinks it's a great idea, and they have a smackfest. Mothra vs. Godzilla. Typhoon comes in and makes a mess, leaving behind a radioactive scale and a gigantic holy shit that's big egg. Owner of Happy Enterprises buys it, but the tiny ladies known as Cosmos say, "Hold up, dickface, that's Mothra's egg." Then Godzilla shows up to crack the egg, and Mothra fights back, but Godzilla kills her, and the egg hatches to baby Mothra to finish Godzilla off. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. It's a heat wave in winter, meteors every night, and the princess of a tiny nation, Salno, is taking refuge in Japan because assassins. A cop named Shindo is her bodyguard, but before she can land, her plane explodes. She's found later claiming to be an alien from Venus. Science Man finds one of the meteors, and it hatches the monster named Ghidorah. Princess Venus predicts more monsters like Rodan and Godzilla popping up. They do, and start fighting. Mothra comes in and says, "Hey buddy bro, old friends, let's instead fuck up this golden three-headed dragon from space." Invasion of the Astro Monster. We found a new planet which we appropriately named Planet X and send astronauts Glenn and Fuji to investigate because that was totally possible in the 1960s. Shut up. They find aliens living underground because of the wrath of one King Ghidorah. Alien Man wishes to borrow Godzilla and Rodan to fight off Ghidorah. In exchange, they will literally give us the cure for cancer. But the alien liars lied. They take over Earth using electronic magnetic waves to control Godzilla, Rodan, and Ghidorah. Ibira, Horror of the Deep. Fishing boat sinks in the South Seas, and a guy named Ryota insists his brother has survived. So, with the help of two bumbling morons, he hijacks a sailboat belonging to Yoshimura. Well, not really, he's a thief that did thievery, but anyway, they get caught in a storm and wash ashore an island where bad people called Red Bamboo, yes they are, Bamboozle, use slave labor to make a special yellow juice that repels the giant lobster, Ibira, so they can make heavy water. It's used in making nuclear bombs. But the Scooby Gang finds Godzilla napping on the island and decide to wake him up. Son of Godzilla. On the remotest of remote islands, Dr. Kasumi is running an experiment to control the weather and turn previously unused land into farmland, until sudden reporter Goro literally drops in, plus there are giant mantis, Kamacuras, and spiders, Kumanga, on the island and an egg that hatches a baby Godzilla known as Manila that looks like a bloated tumor. Destroy all monsters. In the far-flung future of 1999, okay, sure, we got a moon base and all the world's monsters are confined to one island, overseen by Dr. Otani and his assistant Kyoko. Astronaut badass Katsuo encounters lady aliens called Kilax, who take control of Otani and Kyoko, also all the monsters. Team Humans find the control balls, and the aliens let loose Ghidorah as a final solution. All monsters attack. Dork named Ichiro gets bullied at school and fantasizes about hanging with Manila on Monster Island, where bully monster Gabera picks on them until Godzilla shows up and beats that ass. In reality, two bank robbers are hiding out in an abandoned building, and Ichiro finds one of their ID when scavenging for junk, and the robbers come looking for it. Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Mound of sludge randomly comes to life as the pollution monster Hedorah. Humans construct giant zappy panels to fight the creature, and Godzilla rips his eyes out. Godzilla vs. Gigan. Comic artist Gengo does some artwork for World Children's Land, a new amusement park with a tall-as-fuck Godzilla tower, when he bumps into Machiko and Shosaku. Machiko's brother Takashi is being held captive by the head of World Crazy Kid Nation. With the help of Gengo's girlfriend Tomoko, they plan to free Takashi, but the Earth Youngling PlayStation is run by cockroach aliens who have audio tapes that can talk to the monsters like Godzilla and Anguirus. When those two swing by to say what the fuck, bug people from outer space call on old pal Ghidorah and new guy Gigan for backup. Godzilla vs. Megalon. The underwater kingdom of Seatopia, great name, is at peace until those pesky humans conduct an underground nuclear test and piss off the peace hippies of Oceanland. So they send up Megalon to wreck shit, but they need the help of a robot called Jet Jaguar, stupid-ass name for a stupid-ass robot, so they send two agents to beat up inventor Goro, his buddy Hiroshi, and Goro's kid brother Rokuro, and take Jet Jaguar, but Goro regains control and has Plane Panther retrieve Godzilla to fight Megalon. Water Nation calls out to Gigan for help, then Supersonic Cheetah just figures out how to grow bigger and helps Godzilla. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. At an excavation, Shimizu finds a cave with a small statue inside. Archaeologist Psycho studies it and reads a bullshit prophecy about sky mountains and blood moons. Then Godzilla shows up and wrecks shit, beats the fuck out of Anguirus, but haha, I fooled you, it's actually a robot called Mechagodzilla built by gorilla aliens. Shimizu and Psycho use the weird statue to awaken King Caesar to aid Godzilla in beating the monkey aliens' fake news Godzilla. Terror of Mechagodzilla. Mad scientist named Shinzo has created Titanosaurus to wipe mankind from existence. Monkey aliens offer to help and rebuild Mechagodzilla. Shinzo's daughter, Katsura, who is a cyborg, is implanted with a control device for Mechagodzilla. Interpol and the Japanese military must help Godzilla win the fight of his life. Named Showa for the rule of Japanese Emperor Hanazono, fuck if I know if I said that right, from 1926 to 1989. When people think of Godzilla and all the myth or mysticism surrounding him, these are more than likely the films they think of. The films started as a damnation of nuclear weapons, then evolved to match whatever social climate arose in the nation of Japan, related to whatever the great fear of the day was. At first it was nuclear weapon bad, then danger from space as the space race brought about fears of finding violent, malicious life beyond the stars, then we had pollution bad and protect the environment, then it was a variation on enemy from space with the unknown possibility of outsiders, mostly Westerners. Something I noticed was how the people are, at first, shocked beyond words at the appearance of monsters, and by the time we get to aliens, the people are more like, oh god, here we go again. This mentality reflects today, as we quickly become numb to what should be a bigger issue, but we just say, whatevs. The tone of the films start very dark and rather frightening. The rampage across Tokyo in round 1, and the aftermath thereof, is terrifying and heartbreaking. Thus was the point, to relate the carnage to the effects felt from the atomic bombs dropped less than 10 years before, but by halfway through, we get a more family-friendly tone. These are, not surprisingly, the less beloved films of the franchise. As this evolved into an established series, the suits get cheaper. You could always see the strings and such, it's not like they had computers to remove them from the film, but in the suits you could see the zippers and the heads would bob around all gangly-like. This is something that would get fixed in the Heisei era, but that's only because special effects evolved so much in a couple of decades. Speaking of special effects, they get a little bit better as the technology to build them gets any sort of advancement. Some designs do look good. Ghidorah doesn't really look all that different as time goes on. Honestly, he doesn't change much ever. From origin to even the most modern films, he just kind of gets bigger. But what effects they have are now dated and often rather laughable, no matter how good they looked then. In Hedorah, they have these weird animation blocks of Hedorah drinking pollution and such. It's just so sudden and drastically different from the rest of the film, and ruins what pacing they did establish. During later films, there is a scourge of reused footage from previous films used as new footage, not just as a recap of last time on Godzilla. I wouldn't say it detracts from the films, but it is glaringly obvious what they did, especially in All Monsters Attack. There are a handful of actors who return from installment to installment, not as the same character, but it is obviously them. Sometimes the older actors, who may actually be of an elder age or not, have what can be best described as face wigs. I don't honestly know if they are fake beards and mustache, but it looks like fake beards and mustache, and if I'm right, I gotta wonder why. The few times an English actor is speaking English, they sound like they have never spoken any language before in their life. They emphasize the wrong syllables and speak with no semblance of cadence. And despite me not having any way of knowing, again, it really seems like they are recorded in ADR and it's fucking annoying. Something a lot of people claim that is nowhere near accurate is that the films are 50% monster-on-monster action. This is not what happens. Not in any of them. The percentage... No, I didn't sit with a stopwatch and calculator and get an exact number on all 15 films, but the count would be closer to 20 or 30% of the film. The monster smackdown city demolition scenes are just what people remember most. People tend to reject the people, human characters, and in these they are not stellar. The stories they tell are not always horrible or uninteresting. Ichiro in All Monsters Attack is rather useless, and that movie is probably the least favorite of the entire Godzilla franchise. But then there are the ones that have become universal favorites, like our crew in King Kong vs. Godzilla or the Cosmos. Honestly, they're beloved in any incarnation. Human characters are essential to these films. Calling for all monster action and no humans means you missed the entire point of these films. Look back at the very first film and tell me how that was supposed to work without humans. The action scenes, not the monster blows up yet another building stuff, but the human punches another human scenes, bring us the very best that the 60s and 70s had to offer. It looks laughable today, but for the day it was intense. And as much as I despise the character of Jet Jaguar, yeah, I said it, fuck his robot ass shoot, but there is this car chase in Godzilla vs. Megalon that is still rather exciting. It isn't much more than a diamond in the very rough, but credit due. Looking back on this series, I see a lot of what was referenced, ever so subtly, in the most modern films. Rodan awakening inside a volcano, Kong and Godzilla having an ancient rivalry that gets no more explanation other than because. Of course, Ghidorah being from space, Mechagodzilla being one of the most unstoppable enemies Godzilla faced, Mothra playing peacemaker, or at least trying to, and of course, the message of fuck around with nature and eventually she has enough of our bullshit and curb stomps all of humanity. The series as a whole has many up and down. Films that are beloved the world over, and those that are forgotten about and erased from our collective memory. But if I were to rate them as a collective, which is the point here, I would say you could watch them. And there you have it, the entirety of the Showa series. I enjoyed talking about it, hopefully you enjoyed learning something about it, so tell me what you thought of the Showa films. Which one's your favorite, which one's your least favorite? Did you even know that half of these existed? We'll talk about it, we'll discuss. And as always, thanks for watching.